Sideline Square. It's a long time coming. Steve, Andrew, what say you? This is the sideline, yeah. Funny, it's my time then. Put me in right now then. Squid, boy. This is the sideline, Funny, it's my time then. Yeah. Put me in right now then. Squid, boy. This is the squib, info stick up to your ribs. Chips be coming with that dip. Go ahead, put it to your lips. My oh my, that is delish. Victory gon' taste like this. Y'all bought that big ol' boat, but these boys built you a bridge. Sit down and take notes. If you want you a trophy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sideline Squib. I'm your host, Steve Silvestri, back with co-host Andrew Lehigh, and we hit the trifecta tonight. Doug Eddy is with us from the Dynasty Happy Hour and the Fantasy Football Gurus. So if it's not hard enough to host as it is, I now have to go against one of the best hosts in the fantasy football community. Doug Eddy, how are you, my man?
Thank you for the high praise. Much appreciated. And you know what? I actually like being a guest because it takes the stress off of me. Like, I'm just along for the ride. I don't have to, kind of control the mob, if you will, on the podcast. And I can just kind of hang out, do my thing. I can be heard because I try not to give a lot of analysis as a host. I just try to keep things moving. So I like guesting quite a bit. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we love having you on. Don't jinx it yet. You may be guest hosting here in a little bit. So, Andrew, how are you doing out there tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I'm glad that we were all able to get connected here. We've had like you said, we have the trifecta of the DHH community, kind of the infrastructure of that Dynasty Happy Hour podcast. So it's good to have the man, the myth, the legend, Doug Eddy with us here, and we're just going to kind of go over some ADP stuff and just kind of have a little fun here with Would You Rather and all that good stuff. So should be a good show, and we'll kind of give some people some different ways of looking at approaching a startup here.
Yeah, awesome. So before we jump in and talk about our sponsor and what we're going to get into, some football stuff, I'd like to take 10 seconds. So if you guys are out there, you're listening to us on the radio, through your cars, if you're watching us live, I'd like everyone to take 10 seconds for what's going out there right now. And we're going to have a little 10-second podcast blackout. Awesome, guys, and thank you for everyone staying safe out there. That is one of the biggest things right now. Peaceful protest and everything out and everything going on. It's getting crazy out there. So be there for your families. Be there to support everyone, no matter where you stand in the matter. If you're out in the front lines or sitting back and just being careful, just be safe because it can get scary out there. That's for sure. I've seen a few of it. I'm in between two cities right now, so it's a little bit hectic out there, but. Let's jump on in. Let's jump into the good old ADP question here because a lot of the rookie fever, I think, is over. But there's still some value out there in startup drafts, of course. So I think the rookies are starting to filter into their place a little bit, but I also think that the draft is coming and your startup drafts, and especially the big Scott Fish Bowl coming up, obviously that's a little bit different. But first to start off, let's go over who is a player, Doug, that you are trying to buy no matter what this offseason before the season starts because you think that his value is just top-notch right now with his ADP.
I think one of them that comes to mind is Gardner Minshew. Like, I think he's going to be the guy for Jacksonville and currently on DLF ADP. Now, this isn't Superflex. I couldn't find that particular data stream. But I mean, Gardner Minshew in at least standard leagues is the 30th quarterback off the board, and he's going in round 19 as the second pick. To me, that's pretty crazy because if you look at Gardner Minshew, they drafted Laviska Shenault. They still have Fournette and DJ Chark. And Minshew is surprisingly mobile. So if you're looking for that Konami code quarterback, Gardner Minshew, for a team that had single-digit rushing touchdowns last year, and we all know Leonard Fournette only had 3, Gardner Minshew, I think, provides a ton of value because I think that they believe in him. There's no one there to push him for a job. They didn't bring in a veteran. He's their guy. Most importantly, he's a rookie QB on a cheap salary as a starting quarterback. So teams love that because they can try to build around him in other ways. But I just like his mobility, his accuracy, the talent that he's got around him, I think is better than a lot of people give credit for. Like a lot of people didn't like Laviska Shenault going to the Jags. And I'm like, you're crazy. Like Leonard Fournette's not going to get 100 targets again. And they signed Tyler Eifert in the offseason, which I think was a nice sneaky move. And they have my dynasty heart, Josh Oliver, right behind him. So yeah, it's Gardner Minshew for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Gardner Minshew quite a bit, to be honest. And going in with the Jaguars, I think in a second year system and knowing he's going to be the starter is a huge deal in the offseason when it comes to preparation and things like that. Plus, we've all seen the workout video of him with a crop top on and doing all that extra route running and stuff. So
and he's a fun player to own too. He's like owning Juju Smith-Schuster. Like he's just a lot of fun, and I like owning those particular guys too. That factors in a little bit, just a tad.
Yeah, being able to like root for your guy too is like kind of fun for just. I mean, at the end of the day, fantasy football is supposed to be fun. So for it to be, to have some rooting interest in there as well is always a good time. As far as the rest of the Jaguars offense, like where are you on DJ Chark or Laviska Shenault and Leonard Fournette? Are you still high, low? Where are you on that?
I think Chark profiles as an alpha. I like what he did last year, so I got no qualms with Chark's ADP currently right now. Laviska Shenault, he was my favorite rookie to get, typically between 2.5 and 2.12. Laviska Shenault was available. The last draft I got him at the 208. I traded back into the 208 to get Shenault because to me, like when the rookie wide receivers come off the board, he's seemingly the last guy on that big tier break. So you usually have like, a Bryan Edwards, Laviska Shenault, maybe it's a Mims depending on, Higgins, like that whole cluster, Pittman of receivers. Shenault tends to be on the back end of that. And when you look at his size, tackle breaking ability, his versatility, they're going to line him up out of the backfield. They can line him up in the slot. I think he has the speed to place him outside. I know he ran a 4.5 and change at the combine, but he was hurt. And just watching his tape and his ability in open space and to break tackles reminds me, and I know this might be a little bit bold, reminds me a little bit of a Larry Fitzgerald in terms of, like, I don't think he has Larry's hands or route running capability, but when I look at the way that he's built and he can break tackles, like he kind of looks like Larry Fitzgerald a bit to me. It's not because they both have dreadlocks either, so get over it. But yeah, I like the way he looks as a player. I know a lot of people comp him to Debo because of his versatility and athleticism, and I think that's pretty fair. But to me, I get a little Larry Fitzgerald vibe if he can work on the hands and obviously the route running. Now, I don't think he's going to be one of the best receivers of all time, but I think he's going to be a good one.
Yeah, so Steve and I, who is having technical difficulties, clearly. Steve and I have been on Laviska Shenault for what feels like forever, obviously. Just life in general has felt like it's taken forever right now. But
yeah, that's very true.
The rookies, we've been on the rookie class for quite a while. It's our first rookie class as a group and as a channel and brand. And so Laviska Shenault was one of our favorite, we both individually watched film. We both, dove in. He was on him before I was. And I remember like watching him and just falling in love with just his play style. And I feel like I kind of have like my type of receiver that I like. And that it's tough to not, it's good to recognize that you have those kind of bias towards a certain guys.
For sure. Yeah.
But I definitely have my type of guy. Like I like my Jarvis Landry's. I like Steve Smith.
I like safe floor guys.
Yeah.
Like my brother-in-law, Josh, who's my co-host on Trophy Time. So he gives me crap because I don't swing for the fences with like a Henry Ruggs or like a speed demon, like a John Ross in that draft. And I'm like, you know what? Give me the guy that's got a safe floor. Like he knows I love Michael Pittman and he forever makes fun of it for me. And he thinks that Michael Pittman's going to stink. And I'm like, you're crazy. He's not going to stink. He's in a great situation. Like, but meanwhile, he's on like the hyper athletic Denzel Mims. And I like Mims a lot, but it's like, to me, Pittman's the better player. And I think he's going to be a better pro, where Mims might have some big weeks. I want Pittman, who's going to be the slow and steady wins the race. He's probably more athletic, could be a more athletic Keenan Allen in this league.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. And it's perfect. Paired up with the perfect quarterback for that scenario.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's his old quarterback. So, I like my mix of, I took Michael Pittman at the 206 in that same draft. I took Shenault at 208. And to me, that was like Pittman's a safe floor. And I think Chenault's got the higher ceiling. But I think based on volume alone, I think he's going to do a lot of things in his rookie year that people aren't going to expect.
Yeah, we're fortunate with this class. I think a lot of people are waking up to that fact. But the wide receiver depth of this class is going to be something that is really, really impressive when we look back 3 or 4 years from now, once this is all calmed down and regular offseason programs happen again.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys in rookie drafts. I mean, if you're in a standard 4-round rookie draft, there's guys that are going undrafted that I really, really like to be productive pros. I actually have one of them written down. If you want a spoiler alert, I can give it to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So one of the guys, my highest share of any player across my MFL leagues is Joe Reed from the Los Angeles Chargers. Now we talked about Laviska Shenault. To me, Joe Reed is a lot like Laviska Shenault, but he's free in Dynasty. I have him in all but one MFL league. Now, can you tell me, Andrew, the Los Angeles Chargers depth chart at wide receiver right now?
Yeah, it's Keenan Allen and then no one.
Yeah, it's Mike Williams, and then it's Joe Reed. They've got KJ Hill, and then another receiver that I'm familiar with. Now, could they sign a veteran? Absolutely.
Sure.
But when you look at Joe Reed's skill set, now it took until his senior year for him to get, over, I think it was 30 receptions. He had 77, and he had just under 800 yards. But he did have a good amount of rushing attempts. And every year in his college career, he had at least one return touchdown. And in 3 of those years, he had multiple. So to me, the athleticism was there. He ran a 4.47 in the 40. Like his overall speed score is, I think, 96th percentile. So for me, Joe Reed, he can be used in different ways that they don't have players like that. Like we know what Keenan Allen is. We know what Mike Williams is. Joe Reed can be a versatile weapon that they can use to try to change that offense, especially with a quarterback right now like Tyrod Taylor. So you talk about run pass options. You talk about moving guys around. Like Joe Reed was a 5th-round pick, and he goes undrafted in almost every Dynasty rookie draft I've been in. So for me, I pick him up. I put in for a couple bucks or for nothing, and I get him in the UDFAs, and he's a guy that he could start in year 1. What if Mike Williams goes down with an injury or Keenan Allen goes down? Like he's already a wide receiver 3 on the team.
Yeah, literally. And they have to pass the ball to somebody. And eventually, I know Keenan Allen has dealt with double teams his whole career. I understand Keenan Allen has, taken the lion's share of the targets virtually since he's been there. But eventually, somebody else has to take the targets. And I know that they're not going to be as pass heavy or as deep ball prevalent as they might have been in years past. It's going to be a very different looking offense, I think, from the Chargers standpoint. But I don't think that's as negative as people want it to be when it comes to fantasy production. And I also think the reason Tyrod Taylor's leash has always been so short, several things, but the simple answer is just the ability to win games, right? You can't put your team in a bad position to lose the game or any of that kind of stuff. And they have always kind of geared themselves more towards the more traditional style quarterback, right? The less of a risk taker, the less running, the less sack taking, those kind of things. Well, he's on a team now with a defense that's borderline top 3. I would clearly say top 5. Defense. I mean, and they're all coming back healthy. They have invested so much draft capital and money into that defense that it's really eye-opening when it comes to when you really take a look at their entire roster. And I know this is a fantasy football podcast and a fantasy football brand and all that kind of stuff, but you can't just ignore one side of the football when you're talking about evaluating or projecting what you think the offensive side of the ball is going to do. They work together. And if you put yourself in a situation where you're always in good field position, you're always creating turnovers, those kind of things.
Yeah, if you have a good defense, your offense is going to get the ball more often.
Right. Special teams included in all that.
And here's the thing, I was a big Tyrod Taylor fan when he was up in Buffalo. For me, he was averaging 40 rushing yards a game, which is like an extra passing touchdown.
Yep.
I thought that he kind of got a little bit of a raw deal. They did make the playoffs with Tyrod, and then he goes to Cleveland as the starter and just didn't play all that well. But you want to talk about a guy with, ADP. If you're looking for a veteran quarterback that everyone's like, oh, Herbert will take over at some point. Here's the thing. Tyrod Taylor doesn't turn the ball over. He's got more talent. I mean, that Buffalo team didn't have a ton of talent.
No, none, right? None.
Right. So now he's got Hunter Henry, he's got Williams, he's got Allen, he's got Eckler. He's got my boy Josh Kelly, and he's got Joe Reed. So like he's got a lot of stuff around, plus a great defense on the other. All he has to be is a game manager. And you want to talk about, again, like Gardner Minshew earlier, that Konami code quarterback. When he was with Buffalo, he averaged almost 40 rushing yards a game. And last time I checked, like he was, I think in the year they made the playoffs, he was a QB1. I think he was like the QB10 on the season.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
And now he's going to be in a much better situation. Like people that think Herbert is just going to take over for Taylor, I think are insane. I think the Chargers are a playoff team. I think the Chargers are a playoff team. And Tyrod Taylor isn't going to make mistakes to get himself benched.
And the mistakes that he does make, inevitably he'll make mistakes, right? Every quarterback does it,
but he's not prone to do it often.
Exactly, and he has the added pressure of there is Justin Herbert right behind him, right? So there is some pressure there.
He had that with Baker, and Baker was rookie year,
Exactly. So he's familiar with going into a season knowing that he has to be perfect, and everybody wanted Baker Mayfield, but. To be starting for a multitude of reasons, and a lot of it had to do with his swag. A lot of it had to do with his personality and how likable of a guy Baker seemed to be when it came to fans and fan bases, and obviously Cleveland was ready for a change. So the leash was even shorter for Tyrod. Similar defense situation when it comes to Cleveland. Cleveland had a great defense and still does have a great defense, at least on paper. I would say the Chargers are in a better position, both offensively and defensively, for Tyrod to succeed. The same head coach is still there when it comes to Tyrod's success in Buffalo and in previous fantasy production. So I think all that adds up to being Joe Reed is a nice ad, is a nice freebie.
His ADP is 22.4. He's the 108th wide receiver in his ADP right now. So
and it's like, well, and the other thing is like, we're talking from fantasy production standpoint, a rushing floor from a quarterback, like you said, 40 yards, right there is huge floor already. And then you have countless dump offs with Austin Eckler. You have just generated yards right there. That's passing yards.
I mean, Tyrod Taylor made Charles Clay a Pro Bowler. What do you think he's going to do with Hunter Henry?
That's exactly. So touchdowns shouldn't be an issue either. So just a ton of things to like from the Chargers standpoint. As a Chiefs fan, clearly, I would be more worrisome if I didn't have the best player in football quarterbacking my team. I would be more worried if we didn't have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and those kind of guys. So I would be more concerned with the Chargers. But from a fantasy production standpoint, from a fantasy projection standpoint, I like the Chargers offense altogether. You want to talk about another freebie wide receiver while we're off on a tangent here? That I've found myself with quite a bit of. I haven't done any, adding up who I have the most of right now, but Darnell Mooney.
From Chicago.
I'm all in a similar situation because outside of Allen Robinson and the 18 tight ends that they have, they're looking at a lot of.
Don't besmirch Anthony Miller. You can't do that.
I do like Anthony Miller, but he hasn't done anything yet because I understand situational. I understand all those things.
He had a nice stretch last year. I'm telling you, he's never 100% healthy, that's been his thing. Like he played through, I think it was a separated shoulder in his rookie year, and then he had injuries last year. Like God forbid if this kid is ever 100% healthy, and if they ever get the quarterback position figured out. But yeah, Darnell Mooney, really nice collegiate profile, athletic. I know that he's got like a small hive on Twitter of Darnell Mooney people. I think I started the Joe Reed one, by the way. I think
you might have. I like Joe Reed. I like Joe Reed more than I like KJ Hill.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. I just think he has a more of a role. And we've talked about this on our show several times in regards to when it comes to Laviska Shenault, when it comes to Justin Jefferson and guys like that, and comparing him to like Henry Ruggs and some of the high speed guys, big play guys.
The high speed guys just don't pan out.
Well, you have to get on the football field, right? So in order for you to get on the football field, you have to be trustworthy in a system. You have to be you can't just be the guy who runs deep and they just throw the ball to you and that's it. If that's what you are, that's what you are. But you're not going to see enough snap share for me to ever trust you in a fantasy situation.
Exactly.
Guys like Justin Jefferson, Laviska Shenault, Joe Reed from a special team standpoint, and guys like that. When you get on the football field in a specific role, and are more of less of a gadget player and more of a Swiss Army knife, where you can play a bunch of different. You can be involved in the play in much different ways. Then you have more opportunity to make an impact, and the more opportunity leads to
you stay on the field every snap.
Yeah, and
like if you can do everything, they're not going to take you out.
And then broken plays happen. They get you the ball, you make a play, and then it's all a snowball thing. So the more you can do for your football team, I know it sounds stupid to say, like when we verbalize those things, like the more you can do for your team, the more you'll be on the football field.
No,
but
I hear you.
It really is that simple. Like the more you can do, the more you offer for the offense, the less inhibiting you are when you're on the football field. The more you're going to get those opportunities, and what you do with those opportunities, obviously is up to you. And as long as you can stay healthy, and you can potentially, be a breakout faster than your counterpart that has higher draft capital, like a Henry Ruggs. Like I like Brian Edwards in Oakland system far more than I like Henry Ruggs. I understand what Henry Ruggs brings to the table. I understand why he was drafted when he got drafted. I understand that what he does to a defense and those kind of things. But from a fantasy floor and from a fantasy ceiling, I am much more inclined to take Brian Edwards, A, on the price, and B, on what I actually think he can do.
I think Edwards is going to be the alpha there after this year. And
he fits more of what they're trying to do. Henry Ruggs doesn't make sense for that quarterback and that system. That's
true.
Derek Carr's not airing it out to Tyreek Hill.
And neither is Marcus Mariota as his backup.
Exactly. And we talked about that with the Titans last year with Ryan Tannehill and Marcus Mariota. It didn't make sense for Tannehill to be the backup to Mariota. They're the same quarterback. If you aren't satisfied with what Mariota is bringing to the table, how on earth would you be satisfied with Tannehill? I don't think that the switch to Tannehill would have been. I don't know if riding out Mariota would have been that much worse than what they got out of Tannehill from a fantasy standpoint. I understand bringing in new players and guys rally around it and those kind of things. There's an emotional thing that comes with changing quarterbacks or changing any position, but from a talent standpoint, I felt like they were both pretty similar in what they brought to the table, and I just don't see how having the same quarterback in line there makes enough sense. Unless you're just hoping that.
Oh, they're just like our dynasty teams. Like they maybe give Carr one this year, and then they reassess the situation, and they draft a big arm quarterback, and there you go.
It's a totally different offense then.
Yeah,
completely different. I'm with you. So for me, speaking of ADPs and wide receivers and all this stuff, and I know it's a personal thing for me. I think I always tend to talk about wide receivers more than I talk about any other position. First off, I think it's a deeper position. It's more nuanced. I played the position at a semi-pro level, and so I'm more comfortable and familiar and confident in my evaluation and talent evaluation of what I think is going to happen.
Oh, that makes sense.
Sticking in that line of thought, where are you with Tyler Boyd?
I think Tyler Boyd is rock solid. I think he's one of the guys that after the draft, people saw that they drafted T. Higgins and obviously they drafted Burrow. AJ Green's coming back and they still have John Ross, whatever. But for me, Tyler Boyd is the model consistency. He is just a rock solid wide receiver to every single week, working out of the slot. Now he's got an upgraded quarterback, in my opinion, from Burrow over Dalton. And he's just consistent. He's a lot like Jarvis Landry. He's not sexy. I know he had the double-digit touchdown season a couple of years ago, or close to double digits, and when he splashed on the scene. But now he's just kind of he catches short passes and he'll give me wide receiver 2 numbers, but he's just not sexy. So people kind of look past him. But you're going to get wide receiver 1 weeks out of Tyler Boyd. He's had a couple of splash weeks in the past where he's had 2 touchdowns and big yardage. So I like Tyler Boyd a lot. That's a guy that I would definitely be trying to buy on the low this year, as I think he'll outperform his ADP.
Yeah, speaking of his ADP, right? So he's going right now at wide receiver 30, roughly 28 to 30. Wide receiver 30 is where I have it written down here as of May of 2020. Mm-hmm. He finished as wide receiver 17 last year in 2019. He had 142 targets. Burrow is exclusive, almost exclusively throws to his slot wide receivers because that whole system was revamped in 2018 in LSU. 2019, they were even more contingent on getting Burrow to throw the ball quickly out of his hands as quickly as possible to the slot wide receiver. They had a ton of plays designed just for that. And it's what he's most comfortable with. And now with the shortened offseason, obviously AJ Green is an alpha and should be respected from a defensive standpoint. But if you're trying to get somebody at a much, dynasty wise, you want to get somebody at a cheap that could potentially be the wide receiver 1, with T. Higgins being the wide receiver 2 a couple years from now. Tyler Boyd is the guy. Tyler Boyd's already been in the system. Tyler Boyd would be a comfortable blanket. He's a red zone monster at this point. But like I said, he had 142 targets last year. Burrow and his slot wide receivers already have a connection. I think that would be something that will continue when he gets into the NFL, at least early on, because it's what he's most comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And Tyler Boyd lined up in the slot 69% of the time last year.
A very nice percentage.
Nice.
He's currently sandwiched in between Devin Singletary and David Montgomery in ADP. I'll take Tyler Boyd out of those 3 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you like suboptimal run situations, you could take David Montgomery.
Give me the consistency of Boyd every week. And the upside that's kind of built into there too. Over Singletary, who's going to share snaps with Moss, and Montgomery, who just wasn't good in his rookie year, and you still have Tariq Cohen there. I'll take Tyler Boyd.
And Nick Foles, and now they're 17 different tight ends. As you mentioned, Anthony Miller. They've got a lot of the Chicago Bears. As modest as I can say this, have an actual nice fantasy offense from a price standpoint, where you can get some of these guys. Allen Robinson is disrespected year in, year out. Has a terrible quarterback situation.
He's always valued as a wide receiver 2, but he's a wide receiver 1.
Dude, he's the cheapest production, the cheapest wide receiver 1 you're going to get, second to Jarvis Landry, and they virtually go together. I have them everywhere. I wrote a whole article for Dynasty Happy Hour on Allen Robinson, what it meant for Nick Foles coming in, and all those kind of things.
Allen Robinson had a wide receiver 1 last year with the crap quarterbacks they had.
Robinson is a technician.
Imagine if this kid ever played with a good quarterback.
Literally comparable. If he got anything other than just garbage,
even if he went to the Rams as a free agent, I think after this year, and even with a Jared Goff, that would be an improvement over anything.
Sam Darnold, literally,
that would be nice.
Just a comparable, if he got an Alex Smith in his career, if he had just had one of those kind of quarterbacks, nothing that's nobody's gonna light it up, but a guy who's just steady Eddie and one of the smartest people to ever play football, certainly Alex Smith. And Allen Robinson certainly seems to be very intelligent as well. Seems to be a savant when it comes to route running. I think they would have been a perfect match, but nonetheless, I think one of the most disrespected wide receivers in football. With all of those, with that in mind and his price in mind, I'd also think that the rest of them are also slept on a little bit, especially with the potential of Nick Foles and him already being comfortable in that system. And so I just think that then you already touched on Tariq Cohen. David Montgomery is going to need a nice floor of touchdowns in order for him to meet his ADP at this point.
And that offensive line's got some issues still that I'm not really. All those short touchdowns are going to go to Cole Kmet this year. I'm just putting it out there.
Is that right? Okay, so I'll let you get on Cole Kmet a little bit. Is that your TE1 in the rookie class?
Yeah. So it's funny. We had the tight end group was a mess when it came to the rookie drafts, and a lot of people.
It was going to be so much better. Literally,
for sure. There's a ton. Here's the thing. I invested heavily in the 2017 class, and that's worked out.
Yeah.
I've invested pretty heavily in the 2019 class. That's still the Foster Moreau, Kahale Warring, Josh Oliver's, those. I own them a ton.
Yeah.
And we all know it takes tight ends a few years, so that's what I'm waiting for. And then this year, a lot of people's number 1 going in was Harrison Bryant, and he didn't get drafted until the 5th round by the Browns.
Yeah, and then
people are Hunter Bryant was a top 5. He didn't even get drafted at all. Yeah. Devin Asiasi, who people were who was the second or third tight end off the board. Dalton Keene gets drafted. No one saw that coming. It was just wild this year. But Cole Kmet. So my fun Cole Kmet stat that I've been talking about, and I read it from an article. I was doing some research when I had my last rookie draft where I got Kmet at the 504, not a super flex league or anything. Crazy value, right?
That is really good.
Yeah, and to me it was I don't need him. but there's 6th and 7th round wide receivers and running backs getting drafted over the kid that was a top 45 NFL pick.
Yeah. They're
So
going
I'm just gonna take him now, put him on my taxi, and go from there. But so there's a group of 10 players that 6'6" or larger that have run under a 4.8, I think it is, at the combine. Cole Kmet is on this list. This list also includes Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham, Jason Witten, and Travis Kelce. So, and there's a couple other guys that were, Vance McDonald also on that list. I know he's not great, but some people like him.
He does have that stiff arm, though. He does have that moment.
He stiff arms people into Hades is what he does.
Yeah, he does have that moment right there. He's a gift.
And if you've been playing fantasy football for a little while, this name might be familiar. It's Ben Troop, who used to be a Tennessee Titans tight end, very athletic as well. So you've got a lot of familiar names. Heck, you've got probably 4 Hall of Famers on that list. The Chicago Bears are nicknaming Cole Kmet. The coaching staff nicknamed him the Natural. So to me, they're going to use this kid even in year 1. I know they have Jimmy Graham and they have the 78 other Ben Bronickers and all these other freaking guys on the Bears tight end list. But I think Kmet is going to surprise some people. And yeah, to me, he's the clear-cut tight end 1 in this class. I mean, I like Adam Troutman.
Now we're talking.
I mean, Troutman, I like the athleticism part of it. I don't like the small school. Adam Shaheen, he was athletic and from a small school too, and he hasn't done anything. I know the Saints have Jared Cook there, and then after that it'll be the Troutman show, but we don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Kmet, give me Kmet, give me the overall, what I think is the overall better player in Kmet over Troutman.
Oh man, okay, so there's only 3 tight ends that I have that I've rostered so far in rookie drafts, and by far and away, Adam Troutman is the most owned. Cole Kmet and my boy Big Al from Mizzou,
Albert
O. I mean, I've watched way too many Missouri games, and I don't know how to say his last name because they don't even say his name.
or something. I don't know.
Nick Whalen even broke it out for us on Twitter. I have it saved and everything.
There's Pete Overzet made a funny spelling bee video about
phonetics of it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good when they have to say his name. And what I like most, I think more so than his ridiculous combine, one of the best combine performances from someone that size ever, is this landing spot. I know Noah Fant is there, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!" But that connection, man, with Drew Lock is going to be really, really, really tough to project for people that haven't seen it. I've seen this stuff live. I've seen this stuff he was a different player with Drew Lock, a completely different player, and probably is drafted completely different. Had Drew Lock still been there this past year in college football. And so for me, I'm taking the flyer and the dart throw, if you want to call it that, on sheer talent, athletic ability, and then again, adding in the situation of the quarterback connection that he already has with Drew Lock is an easy one for me. But Adam Troutman couldn't have landed for me at a better spot, given his usability and his move tight end status, right? He's super athletic, like you said. He does come from a small school in Dayton. Yeah. He's the highest drafted player ever out of the Pioneer League. But as a senior, he finished with 70. Yeah. Hey, Pioneer baby. He finished with 70 catches, 916 yards, and 14 touchdowns, earning himself the award of PFL's Offensive Player of the Year. So he has the hardware for a small conference and all that stuff. He has the athletic profile. He has the usability and utilization that he's going to be able to move all around the football field, which I think is a huge deal for that offense. And Jared Cook's not going to be there forever. Jared Cook might not be there all year. At his rate.
Jared Cook's in his mid-30s, so
yeah, with his health and those kind of things, and just what he might be willing to do from a snap percentage situation. Obviously there's a comfortability there, and he still has been serviceable, but I just can't imagine him coming in and playing all the tight end snaps. So Adam Troutman's going to have an opportunity to at least get on the football field as a rookie, and we have to kind of temper our expectations when it comes to rookie tight ends, as you alluded to. So, but he should at least have some opportunity to produce in 2020. So for me, I do like your Cole Kmet. I just like Troutman more, and I like Albert O almost as much as I like Cole Kmet, just from a like you said, price standpoint, where you're getting him in the 5th round is ridiculous. That's stupid. But when you're getting those kind of values for players that are potentially going to be having a role in 2020, it's kind of a no-brainer, especially like you said, when you're looking at wide receivers that are bubble wide receivers when they're drafted. So easy enough.
Yeah, someone took John Hightower over him, and I was like,
oh my gosh.
And Donovan Peoples-Jones, Michael Warren, the running back from the Eagles. I'm like, dude, why are these people not taking Cole Kmet?
Like, I like both of those names. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones and
Hightower.
I'm really Michael Warren. I like
okay.
I mean, I like where he landed. I hate it for my Miles Sanders shares, but I do think that's a very running back friendly offense when it comes to potential of getting touches, because they're
give me all the Boston got on the cheap.
Yeah, they're adamant on running back by committee, but nonetheless, like, I do think Michael Warren is talented, but Donovan Peoples-Jones couldn't have landed at a worse spot when it comes to where he's going to fit in that rock. Like, where does he fit in on?
I mean, Rashard Higgins is their 3rd receiver, and they just signed him like super late in free agency. So like, I understand.
I love DPJ, and he went to Michigan, and God,
he might be the long play. Like, if he ends up on their practice squad or their active roster, I mean, he can maybe learn some things from Beckham and Landry. That'd be some really good teachers. So, he might be a guy that, like, we're talking in his 3rd year in the league after Beckham's contract is kind of sour. Like, maybe getting him, and if you want to play the long game, like, that would be the way to do it. But maybe he's a guy that we're talking about in a few years as being someone that could be a breakout.
Yeah, I mean, what he was up against in Michigan, like, with a quarterback play and play calling and style of play and stuff, like, he was never going to produce. I don't know why he would ever think he should have gone to Michigan if he was going to try to put up big numbers. But from a red zone threat, from a physical standpoint, from like the prototypical size of wide receiver, like,
that long jump and vertical. Whew.
He's the guy. Like, it's like, if you were going to build him, like, that's what you want to build your wide receiver to look like. So you're right. He would definitely be a long play, but drafting him ahead of Cole Kmet, who has a clear path to
give me the draft capital. Give me the draft capital.
Yeah, Chicago's clearly invested in the tight end position. So, like, to draft him over that is silly.
Loves to collect them.
Yeah. So another wide receiver I've got that's criminally undervalued every single year, and this year's no different, would be your boy Bobby Trees, Robert Woods.
He's always disrespected.
Man, like, why? How many times we gotta learn the lesson of, like,
he's one of the players. He's an unsexy player, like Boyd and like Landry. Like, you know what you're gonna get out of him, but you just think to yourself, like, there's not a lot of upside here, and you kind of like go, oh, I'll take Rob Woods. I'll take Bob Forrest. Like, and it doesn't give you that satisfaction of taking, like, what's a receiver in Robert Woods' ADP neck of the woods, if you will.
Robert Woods is going off at wide receiver 28 right now. So
he's right before Tyler Lockett. So when people take Lockett, all they think is like big game upside, right?
Gotta be, right? Yeah, Lockett is at 29. Yeah, you got McLaurin going at 27, Justin Jefferson going at wide receiver 26, Jalen Reagor at 25, Cortland Sutton 17. Let's see who's some guys afterwards. Oh, Adam Thielen, who again continues to get disrespected too.
Yeah, he has one bad year and people are like, he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting old, and I tweeted out, I don't have it in front of me right now as far as like the details and stuff, but like, there's literally been one wide receiver to produce at his ADP right now at his age. Like, one since 2010 or whatever, and it was John Brown last year. So there is a little bit of skepticism on like what he can act like, what his ceiling is, what Adam Thielen's ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a win now team though, if you can get Thielen on the cheap, like Thielen could jump right back into the wide receiver, being a wide receiver 1 territory. The volume should be there. I mean,
yeah,
God.
And the thing about those kind of wide receivers are like, if you're getting those kind of wide receivers, you're getting them at value. First off, if you're doing it in a startup, you're getting them so far down the board. And then second, when you're trading for them, you're usually trading draft picks away in order to get them. So you are absolutely, like you said, it got to be a contender, or at least potentially put yourself over the edge with just having some stability at the wide receiver position, moving forward. And then you can kind of play some matchup type stuff and do some of that. But yeah, Adam Thielen, Robert Woods continue to be wide receivers that are mid-range for really no reason, because they continuously outperform their ADP. Robert Woods' ADP in 2019 was 21, finished as wide receiver 12. Robert Woods' ADP in 2018 was 31, finished 17th, and his ADP in 2017 was 79, and he finished wide receiver 20.
So he's been a wide receiver too,
for
his career.
Since the dawn of time in regards to recent history. So yeah, there's no reason to not be taking him when he's coming off the board. Wide receiver 28. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I like that, and he's not that old. So
he's really not. And then they got rid of. Then there's you got no Cooks. They brought in. I like. Kind of bring in a wide receiver again, a rookie in this conversation, but Van Jefferson is like one of my. Darnell Mooney are like.
I've been calling Van Jefferson a ghetto Keenan Allen, and it's not a bad thing.
No,
I just think when you look at a guy that's like not overly athletic, but the nuances of the route running of the game, like he's Keenan Allen to me, like for real, like on the cheap.
Oh my God, Van Jefferson, man. And landed in a great spot. He landed in a place where they're going to create touches for him. They're going to create targets for him because of his ability.
And not only that, Cooper Kupp's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. Robert Woods is up at the end of next year. So there could definitely be a sea change. Josh Reynolds might be gone. He's a free agent. Yeah, so there could be a sea change.
On Josh Reynolds, and it's like
I traded my 210 and Josh Reynolds to move up to a 205 in a league to take Denzel Mims. That's what I think of Josh Reynolds. I don't know if he's
victory, like a whole-on victory right there.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to be anything. I think at this point we've seen some flashes, but I don't know. The wide receiver position is so deep across the NFL. I don't see Josh Reynolds getting a job as somebody's wide receiver 2 even.
Yeah, and you traded him for potentially a wide receiver, potentially a wide receiver 1. Denzel Mims has the draft capital of being that, at least.
He got me out of the dead zone at the 210. I wanted one of those receivers in that tier, and I knew at the 210 I wasn't going to get one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been at that rate, at 205 to 210 mark. I've been hammering Bryan Edwards, just as a free ticket. I will take more of this pie, please, thank you. Bryan Edwards just seems to be the slam dunk prospect when it comes to the second round values.
I got him super cheap in a league that actually Tyler and I are both in. It's his home league, Dynasty, but it's IDP, and we had the draft, and I ended up getting Bryan Edwards, I think in almost the 5th round. There was just a ton of IDP players taken, and I'm like, okay, let these guys slide to me. I got Bryan Edwards and Antonio Gibson back to back. I think at the end of the 4th or the early 5th.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, guys, keep taking IDP players, please. I'm just going to keep sucking up and there's 20-team taxi squads. So
this guy could just chill if whatever. Which he's not going to. He's going to be producing in 2020. That's crazy.
I got so in that draft, not to humble brag, but I'm going to.
No, you should.
So in that draft,
I need to know who they're listening to. Let's go.
Yes, I took over this league last year. Fairly competitive roster, but I had Thielen, AJ Green, and Juju. So my wide receivers were sunk. I've got Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott, George Kittle. It's a nice roster. So I finished second to last. So I had the 102. I took Jonathan Taylor. At the 202, CeeDee Lamb made it to me. So I was dancing on the ceiling when I saw Lamb slide to me at 202. I had a pick. I traded up. I traded up from the 302 to the 209 and got T. Higgins. And then I drafted guys late like Bryan Edwards, Antonio Gibson. I got Josh Kelly late as well, who's been one of my guys throughout the process. And I got someone else in that league too. But it was just absolute bonkers draft for me to get all that value. That's one of the reasons why I love IDP leagues And I didn't have any IDP needs, and I don't overvalue IDP players. I'd much rather have like the wide receiver that could end up being a wide receiver 2 over a linebacker. Linebackers you can get anywhere in IDP. So
yeah, I don't play it in any IDP. And
lots of fun. I get the most enjoyment out of those leagues that I play.
I need to take my headphones off because I can't hear that. Like I can't hear that. So I am in way too many leagues already. I am in way too many best balls. I'm currently in the FCE. I'm doing in the Eliminator Challenge and like way too many of those too.
Yeah, I got one of those that's gonna get set up soon. So
yeah, like it's bad. Speaking of that, if you guys want to join, if you want to take down Steve, who clearly can't even stay connected to his own podcast.
My default is picks though, so that's an advantage.
Yeah, so he might auto draft already. If you guys want to take us on, we have a Fantasy Cares Eliminator as well. You just have to follow John Bosch, click on the link, and then scroll down to Sideline Squib. I will put a link of that in the YouTube video, and I'll obviously share it again on Twitter. But all the donations go to Fantasy Cares and then in Food Pantry, and then the winner takes home. I think obviously you're going to get some Sideline Squib swag, which we still haven't found a different way of saying that. But you're going to get some of that. You're going to get some shirts and some stickers and all that good stuff. And then we'll come up with a cash prize as well.
You guys should just like coin the term Squib Squad.
Squib Squad. It's not necessarily that it's not a good name, like Sideline Squib swag. It's just tough to say.
It's just a lot of S's.
Yeah.
Sideline Squib swag. Yeah.
Like,
it's the Q and the W back to back. That's what trips you up.
I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't here. I was here for the first episode of Sideline Squib. I was not here for the induction of Sideline Squib. I was not part of the logo and the name design. So that's all on Steve. I love the name. I love Sideline Squib. It's just one of those deals where now we're in a conundrum when it comes to.
I look back at naming things, and so I co-founded Trophy Time and TFF Gurus, and we went back and forth on the name Trophy Times. I didn't want it to be like fantasy football. Like, why is the reason you play fantasy? It's to win trophies. So I was like, Trophy Time. That's like a really good name. I take the credit for thinking of that. But I'm still bummed that we didn't name it the Fantasy Family because it was me, my brother-in-law, and my cousin that all started it. And like the Fantasy Family, like it was available. Like you could have a really clever Addams Family type of intro, like all these things. And I'm still bummed. Like I like Trophy Time, but the website TFF Gurus, I'm like, it should be Fantasy Family. Like just flows. I'm the fantasy father. Like, come on now. Like this could work really well, but alas, maybe if I need to branch out on my own, I can bring it back. But I'm not branching out anywhere.
Yeah, I started all up from scratch again. No, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So, anyways, the Fantasy Cares Eliminator is obviously is on myfantasyleague.com, and I am in enough of those as well. But like I said, Silent Script is hosting one as well. I know that Dynasty Happy Hour has one where they're giving away like a guest spot, so that's pretty cool. So it's a good cause, and it's obviously just some fun and whatnot. But no, I can't do any of this IDP stuff or I can't add in any more to any more to that. Not to mention, I would be so far behind when it comes to ADPs and stuff like that. Like
it's hard to the first year or two. It can be hard, and then once you start to kind of get it down, it becomes like a really satisfying.
All right, so I have a buddy here that a listener or whatnot had DM'd me a couple days ago about like, hey, I've got X, Y, and Z picks coming up in my favorite rookie draft. This is what I'm looking at. What are your thoughts here as far as like who I'm looking at trying to take at these certain spots? It finished up today, and listen to what this guy was able to walk away with. So he had 101 and 103. So he got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and J.K. Dobbins.
Beautiful.
107, he got Cam Akers. 203, Brian Edwards. 205, Brandon Ayuk. 207, Van Jefferson. 210, Tua. Obviously, this is not super flex. 210.
Okay, Van Jefferson at 207. That's wow. That's the highest I've seen him go.
Yeah. Zach Moss at 211.
All right, I like that.
Antonio Golden Gandy at 303.
That's a little high for me.
Yeah, way high for me. Devin Duvernay, 305. Harrison Bryant at 410. So there's and then Dalton Keene at 501.
Okay. I've heard a lot of Dalton Keene.
This was a 7 round. This is insane. Darnell Mooney was
That's a
601 and Hunter Bryant was 701.
Okay.
There's a lot of hits though there. That's a lot of hits. JK, Clyde Edwards, Cam Akers, Brian Edwards, Van Jefferson, Zach Moss, Darnell Mooney. Like, I think that's
I would have loved to known who else was on the board at the 2-7 when he took Jefferson.
I know. And we had that discussion yesterday, and I just told him like the 3 targets I would have at 107, which would have been Justin Jefferson, Cam Akers, or Keyshawn Vaughn. Just based on my own. Like, and I don't know, like, obviously I'm not looking at the board. I don't know who's still there and what kind of run it was on or any of those kind of things. But like from a very broad spectrum, those are the 3 guys that I tend to see there. And those would be the 3 guys that I would be circling or wanting to own a piece of it. If I had Cam Akers, or if I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and J.K. Dobbins after 3 picks, I probably would have gone wide receiver though instead of Cam Akers, but that's just me.
I mean, it depends on what your roster looks like. I mean, here's the thing: like running backs are, they're just hard. You have to overpay for them. It seems like now in fantasy, where same thing with like a QB in a superflex league. Like people are going to pay big prices to get running backs. Look at all the auctions that I've been in, and the running backs are. I mean, in superflex leagues, the quarterbacks are usually the most expensive. But there were some running backs, especially in like Capitalist Pigs 2, which Scott Fish does with 56 teams, 4 copies of each player, all that jazz. Those prices were insane too. And I was just like, oh, I guess I'm not getting a running back this year. I got Keyshawn Vaughn for like $200, where like Akers and all these other guys went for $500. So I was like, all right, I'll take the discount and get Keyshawn Vaughn at a couple $100, and then I traded for Ronald Jones. So I was like, you know what? I traded Nyheim Hines and $15 for Ronald Jones.
What?
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? Like, Nyheim Hines hype is out of control, first of all.
Bro, oh my God.
His ADP is still palatable, but I think it's going to keep going up and up and up.
What is his ADP right now? I don't think I have any Nyheim Hines, actually.
I have him. Well, I had him in that league, and I traded him because, like, you know what? Give me Vaughn and Rojo over Nyheim Hines. I didn't have another Colts running back.
All day long. His ADP right now is by position is 59.
Yeah, that's pretty low. I think there's definitely some money to be made on that. But for me, like, I was like, you know what? Give me Rojo. I think Hines is. People think he's going to play the Eckler role. Like I think Marlon Mack is going to play a lot of that.
Who plays Eckler roles? Eckler, like in CMC, like those running backs play those roles. Nyheim Hines is not playing that role.
No, and the fact is, like, Nyheim Hines wasn't that good last year. Like, he had a ton of drops. Like, he's small. Like, I understand he's fast, but he didn't have any big breakaway plays.
Yeah, and
I think Nyheim Hines is, like, if you can sell him, like, he's a guy, like, when you talked about dumping, like, he's a guy that I'm going to try to dump before he's, like, worthless, in my opinion.
Completely agree. And Ronald Jones, I don't think, I mean, if that's what you got Ronald Jones for, I think you're.
I was happy. I was happy with that. For me to lock up Tampa Bay's backfield more or less. You know, I don't have Dare Ungabawale. I have him in some dynasty leagues. Thank you. Good. I don't have him in that particular league, but I do have him in other leagues. So, I'm just glad Peyton Barber's out of there now.
Oh my God! Yeah, but I'm with you though. I mean, you're talking about a backfield that's going to. I mean, they're going to receive tons of targets when it comes to who's quarterbacking there and Tom Brady.
I mean, they should see much more open lanes because you got Gronk and OJ and Evans and Godwin and, whoever the third receiver there is. I don't know.
Why isn't that talked about enough? Like, there's not a stacked box. They're going to be able to, and both of them are, Keyshawn Vaughn, I think, is a better pass protector. Obviously, that's not anybody's secret, which should afford him to be able to play earlier in his career than for most rookies, especially one who's coming into an established backfield. But Ronald Jones
just don't piss off Tom Brady, because if he does, he's dead to him.
Then you're done. Yeah, but I think a little bit of that is exaggerated. Like, don't piss off Bill Belichick, and you're okay. Tom Brady.
I'm a diehard Pats fan, and I will tell you that if you run a wrong route or you have a drop on Brady, like, he doesn't let you know it like Aaron Rodgers and his, how he's much more visual and. You can notice
a lot of Tom Brady blow ups on the sideline.
But Brady will. that was the big thing with Harry. Like they just didn't connect. There was no training camp or with him, no OTAs. And, and Jacoby Myers was the same way. Like Jacoby Myers was lighting up the preseason and looking good. And then, he has a drop on Brady or he runs the wrong route and like Brady just will stop looking at him. So
I just think like at the running back position, like, don't get him killed. Don't miss a block like that. I understand that, but like, a couple drops here and there, I think he's still gonna find ways to get them the football because that's what he's really good at. He's really good at being able to diagnose where the linebackers are going to be, if they're picking up, if they're blitzing, those kind of things, and getting those running backs out in space. Speaking of hype, though, where are you, please, on the Kenyan Drake hype?
For this year, I like it. For Dynasty purposes, I don't know. I just don't think Drake. I think Drake could have a big year with Arizona this year. Now they gave him the transition tag. They could still franchise tag him next year, but to franchise tag a running back just seems silly.
Stupid.
I just think with the volatility at the running back position, if you own Kenyan Drake in fantasy, you got to cash that chip in.
100%. Yep.
You gotta. It's what I should have done with so I have Aaron Jones in a ton of leagues. He's my boy. I have a hard time trading him, but I did swallow when I traded him and I got a good price for him. But he was the kind of guy like I should have actively tried to trade him before the draft. Like knowing that if they did draft a running back, it could hurt him. He's going to be a free agent. I don't know. Like I love his skill set, but I don't know if an NFL team is going to value him as like a 3-down starter.
Who is though anymore? I mean, I think that's
even like a guy that there isn't a lot of guys. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but I mean, for Aaron Jones,
CMC and Zeke, like,
yeah. I mean, if he can go to a team that allows him to do what he did on Green Bay, but even more, like I would love it. Now we all know the touchdowns are going to regress. That's obvious. He's not going to score 19 touchdowns again. If he scores 10, I'll be happy. Like I could see it regressing back down to that. Now I still believe in Aaron Jones, the player, but he's a guy that like I should have tried to cash that chip in big. And I think Kenyan Drake is that type of player. Like we saw the last few games what he did for Arizona. We all started to drool. The Kenyan Drake truthers were out in full force. And now that we're like, oh, now David Johnson gets traded. They believe in Kenyan Drake. So he's going to be the guy. Now, I like Drake's skill set. I watched a lot of him when he was with Miami being a Pats fan. But to me, he just has some red flags. He's kind of reminds me of that guy. And he's had a better career, but we remember like the Alex Collins of the world, like the small sample size, and we think he's going to be the starter going into next year, and then they don't pan out in fantasy for the long term. And I think Kenyan Drake now, not as drastic as Alex Collins, mind you, but I think he's kind of that trap player for me, kind of like Chris Carson is this year. Like I think there's just a lot of like they could do well for you this year, but after this year, then what? Yeah,
it'd be tough to buy Chris Carson in Dynasty. He's still sitting on the board right now in one of those FCEs I'm on the clock in against the Ball Blast girls, Kate. Yeah, I don't know her specific handle right off the top of my head. I know it's like FF Ball Blast or something like that. But anyway, so I would be interested in Chris Carson in redraft and in best ball because of potential volume that he's going to get. But like going and buying Chris Carson right now just seems.
I sold him in season last year. To a guy that was contending. I think was it Memphis? It might have been Memphis. I sold him for 2 2021 seconds in JJ Arcega-Whiteside because that's another one of my guys. And I needed young receivers on that particular team. So I'm like, you know what? I'll buy the dip on Arcega-Whiteside and hope I got what I got. And then I knew the 2021 class, like people love 2020. Well, 2021 is going to be pretty.
Let me tell you about the 2021.
So for me, like, I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to compete, but I'm trying to get younger type of team. I had 3 2021 seconds. 2 I got in that Carson deal. One of them I flipped with Tyler and got N'Keal Harry.
See, I think that's a great buy. N'Keal Harry, I think, is a great buy. I bought him a couple weeks ago.
So now I'm like, all right, I traded Chris Carson for Harry Arcega-Whiteside, and now I have another 2021 seconds. So I have 2 total, which should net me maybe another good wide receiver. We'll see. I mean, I don't know that Harry or Arcega-Whiteside are good. I'm hoping that
Harry's for sure good. I think Harry's is actually.
I think Arcega-Whiteside is good too. I think it's just gonna. I know people are like, oh, he had the opportunity when everyone got hurt. I'm like, yeah, but he's still a rookie. Like, It's tough, man.
People are just like, I mean, like it's like Hakeem Butler too. You know, it's like one of those guys. I mean, Hakeem, Hakeem Butler. You're talking about a stock like that just tanked. Like preseason right now, this time 12 months ago, he was like,
when Matt Waldman was like, hey, he's my number one receiver in this class. And then the hype got like, I remember doing mocks where Hakeem Butler was a top like 4 pick. And I was, and for me, like he was never like, he was okay, but I just didn't see it with him like some other people did. So I don't own Hakeem Butler anywhere, thankfully. But even after the combine and after the draft, he was still going in the second round. Sometimes back of the first, and from some that I saw, one league I was in, he went 112.
All it takes is an injury-prone season and being shuffled down the depth chart, and
he is absolutely buried.
And then bring in DeAndre Hopkins, and it's over. Like whoop, and gone. Sorry, man.
He turned into Leonte Carew real fast.
Man, you were talking about just a bursted bubble there. But as far as the Aaron Jones, buying something, you want to talk about a love guy I have as well. Like Aaron Jones is absolutely a dude that I feel like I roster everywhere. I feel like
I drafted him in like every rookie draft.
He ends up falling to me like everywhere. Redraft, Dynasty, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Here's the deal. He had in 2019, he's actually on the list of, so I don't know if you know who Marvin Eloquent is, FF_Marvin E. But he did like a whole like touchdown regression thing with all these charts and stuff about like what the average was, where he ended up being. Everybody already knows that his touchdown rate was ridiculous in 2019, right? He's actually a candidate for positive touchdown regression. I don't even know how that's possible. 2017, 2018, he had a touchdown rate of 66.7% on 12 what was called T-zone touches, so inside the 10, right?
Yeah.
2019, his touchdown rate was actually 52.2%. It went down 52.2%. It was still first in the league. Yeah, but his opportunities went up to 23 touches in the T zone or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have AJ Dillon coming in. Obviously, there's Jamal Williams as well. But Jamal Williams has not been trusted at the goal line for whatever reason.
Yeah. Jones reminds me of a lot. I mean, his game reminds me just a lot of Jamal Charles. And even though Jamal Charles was like a smaller guy, like he was always good at the goal line.
He just found the way. Like he just finds it and gets it. It's an art. I do think it's something that
it's that vision and the ability to get small.
Yeah,
quickly.
And it's not like they have a ton of options in the passing game. Well documented in Green Bay. So Aaron Jones is still going to be a threat in the passing game. He's still going to be.
I did have one of those passing options as an ADP value.
Go for it.
So it's currently the 79th wide receiver going at round 16.02, and it's Alan Lazard.
Lizard.
The Lizard King. I mean, they signed Devin Funchess, right? They don't draft a single GD freaking wide receiver. And Lazard, he has this like rapport with Aaron Rodgers, and I think Lazard could be the number 2 guy. Another Green Bay Packer, if you can get him in a throw-in deal, is Equanimeous St. Brown. I still kind of sort of believe in ESB or EQSB or whatever it is.
Whatever acronym feels right for you. Yeah.
They just got all those receivers with the long. I mean, you got Valdez Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, like
Thiga or Whiteside.
Thiga Whiteside. Yeah, so I like Lazard quite a bit, especially, he's a guy that I picked up last year as a free agent during the season. Because in a lot of dynasty leagues, I like to keep like a couple roster spots at the bottom of my roster just for those like add just for the hell of it guys. And sometimes it works out. I picked up Lazard. I could flip him for probably a 4th round rookie pick. And I've already made money on that. But I did it with Darren Waller. I had him in multiple leagues. Now I've sold Darren Waller in all those leagues I had him in.
Should.
I picked him up in the Bar Tab auction league for $3 as a free agent. I sold him for $300. Tight end premium.
Wow, that is impressive. Yeah.
And with that money in that league, like that's a league where I had 20% of the rookie money this year. And I got Jonathan Taylor, I got Cam Akers, I got Dobbins, I got Chenault, I got Ayuk, I got Troutman. Like I just was like, you know what? I've got money, and I entered the auction. I think I still have the most money left over, so I was able to get some values, spend some money, and then I sold Aaron Jones for $350 because I was like, you know what? That window might close, and he's just not in my long-term plans. I know it sounds terrible, but with that fast the other stuff I got going on, like, I'm going to sell my guy. Here's the thing. The players that you love, you can't be afraid to kind of swallow and let them go sometimes. You can't let your bias get in the way, because then you're going to be holding the rotten apple and be like, this guy never worked out and I could have traded him multiple times.
Like, I really want Travis Kelce in all my rosters, but I couldn't pull the trigger in any of them except for one this offseason in a startup. Like, I know he's going to produce. I know he is in 2020. I know he's probably going to produce in 2021. But that cliff comes, and the cliff comes fast.
Like, I have Julio Jones in a couple of leagues, and like Julio, he's the wide receiver 13. He's going at the end of the third round, and I think Julio's got one more big season left in him. So if you can get a 2021 first for Julio, like, please do. Like, we've tried in one of the leagues that Tyler and I co-own, and just lowball offers for Julio. I still think Julio's going to have 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. Like, people do think you're gonna, like, if you have Julio, that they can just come in and like lowball the shit out of you in order to get him. I haven't held on to him this long to sit here and sell him for peanuts. Like, I know he's still gonna produce a wide receiver 1, maybe even a top 5 wide receiver when it's all said and done. And the wide receiver 1, like, that's in his range of outcomes, absolutely. So, like, for me, but Julio is a guy that I want to sell now, because I feel as if I hold on to him for too long, it's just, I'm going to look at it and regret it and being like, I should have sold at X.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with like Calvin Ridley. It's like he's coming into the forefront of things.
Oh, Ridley's like this year's Godwin, man. He is getting so much hype. It's ridiculous.
And to be honest, like, it's owned. It's rightfully so. I do think he can be this year's
good player.
I do think so too. I do think so too. But if I had more than 1 or 2 shares of Calvin Ridley, I would be selling at least one of them in certain rosters, just because, like you said, what you can get in return for that potentially is like some more of established, running back situation, or in Superflex you can maybe use him as leverage to get one of those premier quarterbacks and things like that. So you gotta know the market and whatnot. To your point, and we'll wrap it up here, but to your point with the whole selling earlier or too late and those kind of things, for me, and I think it was Chalk on Twitter who was like talking about how before the draft, selling or buying or selling these running backs or wide receivers before the draft happens in preparation for these rookies that are coming in. And he kind of made a point of like, I would rather hold guys like Aaron Jones or Marlon Mack or players like that if the team spends draft capital at that position, yes, his value tanks, right? Chris Carson, if they would have spent, if they would have got J.K. Dobbins, then his value tanks, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if they don't, his value skyrockets. His value.
I mean, you're taking a gamble,
right? So for him, sure. I think I fall on that line. I think I'm on that side of things where I would rather hold as long as it's not completely over the hill as far as like a Mark Ingram situation. I would have sold Mark Ingram.
Yeah, for sure.
But like if you're talking about Chris Carson's and Aaron Jones and Marlon Mack, I think holding them was the right move pre-draft, because you don't know what that rookie is going to be if they invest in that position, or if that the immediate impact of the new rookie. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like I love the pick for that offense. I love what they're going to do in Kansas City. But Damian Williams isn't just going to evaporate into thin dust.
Dude is a hero in the Super Bowl for them.
Are you kidding me? You know how sophisticated the offense is in Kansas City, and you want to sit here and talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming here on a shortened offseason and learn the blitz package and pickups for Patrick Mahomes going into this? No, like it's not going to be that.
There's a great Damian Williams stat out there. Let me see if I can find it. So feel free to filibuster, and if I can find it, I will let you know. But it is a mind-bending stat from Mike Clay of ESPN.
I'll filibuster with 2 things. One, just a hit home with this whole Kenyan Drake thing, which is what started all this. Kenyan Drake, despite playing with Adam Gase, this is obviously Mike Me Up, Michael Lou on Twitter. Despite playing with Gase, Drake's career splits in Miami, when given 12-plus touches, he averaged 17.9 points per game, 101 yards from scrimmage, and 0.6 touchdowns. When given 20-plus touches with Gase, he had 23.6 points per game, 149 yards from scrimmage, and 0.7 touchdowns. So if he does get those kind of touches, he does get that kind of opportunity in Arizona, I do think, like you said, in 2020, he certainly is someone that you would want to have on your roster, and certainly somebody that can produce at his ADP. But when it comes to dynasty startups, like you said, there's no guarantee what happens next year. They did transition tag him, but they're not going to franchise tag him. And if they do, that's just silliness. So I just think that long-term play, I don't think Kenyan Drake, and he's not on the right side of the age marker either. So in 2020, I do like him like best ball redraft, things like that. But when he's going at the same clip as Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler, no, thank you. I'm not buying him at that rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's currently RB19. He's going in the 4th round.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that one too. I know in redraft he's going to be like a 2nd rounder, which is just a little bonkers to me too. I found the stat.
Go for it.
All right, please hold. My phone is being finicky. All right. So this is from Mike Clay of ESPN. He wrote like his 50 observations or something like that a couple months back. And I actually saved this because it was just such a stat that I was like, wow. So running back Damian Williams has played at least 49% of the snaps in 16 games since joining the Chiefs in 2018. He's handled 64% of the designed runs, which is 13 per game, and 15% of the targets, which is 5 per game during those weeks, which includes 5 playoff games. His stats those weeks are as follows: 213 carries for 1,020 yards and 14 touchdowns, 65 catches for 514 yards and 7 touchdowns on 85 targets. His numbers add up to 340.4 fantasy points, which would have ranked 2nd to only Christian McCaffrey last season.
Mic drop right there.
Damian Williams isn't going anywhere. Like, I understand, like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, people were excited, but it's going to be the two of them.
Yeah, like it's okay that there's going to be enough targets and enough offense to go around for both of them. They're going to, if anything, it's eliminated, the 3rd running back. There's no Darwin Thompson really impact here. They don't have Shady McCoy anymore. Darrell Williams isn't a thing. Like, so really it will be more of a funnel, which actually is better for fantasy, right? For projection standpoint, it's better to have, 1 or 2 guys that you can pretty much guarantee they're going to be the workhorse. Because bell cows just don't really exist anymore. So to kind of hammer that home, I just think like CEH is obviously a talent that and a landing spot that is perfect when it comes to what his skill set is and how they're going to use him. Love it. Long term, great, awesome. I mean, it's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it as a fan. But from a fantasy football perspective, if we're just going to pretend like Damian Williams is going to just disappear and not be relevant and not win people
after what he did in the Super Bowl and everything, like he's still going to have a role in that team.
He's literally a league winner right now. He is going ADP wise at 37.8 average position ADP. Are you kidding me? A guy that you just said is rattling
he's
out.
He's getting drafted as our RB3.
And an offense that's going to score a ton of points. And, especially early on in the season, he's going to be the running back of focus. They're going to ease CEH in. It's insane. So nonetheless, anyways, Doug, I'll leave you here just with a few minutes or a few seconds to touch on anything that you want to talk about.
Sure.
Where we can find you, all that good stuff. Obviously, really, really appreciate you having you on. And we love your guys' podcast over at Dynasty Happy Hour. So anytime we can get one of you guys on here, it's awesome for us.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I will leave you with a couple more names. I had some more names written down, but I've got Chris Herndon on the list. He's the tight end 28. Jarrett Stidham is the 29th overall QB. Antonio Brown, I know, 92nd wide receiver. Like, if he signs with a team, you're going to get value back immediately on that. So I like that one. And then we talked about Joe Reed, but I got JaMychal Hasty, running back from the Niners. He's the 85th running back. So those are guys that I love. And, we talked a little bit about dumping some players, guys that I want to try to acquire. It's Darius Geis at his current, he's RB30. Tariq Cohen at RB40. Brandon Cooks in the 7th round. Jameis Winston, QB31. And then Drew Sample is like my freebie tight end of the year. A lot of people are like, well, CJ Uzoma's there. And I'm like, they drafted Drew Sample in the 2nd round. Like, he's got a pretty good athletic profile here. Like, Drew Sample, tight end premium leagues. I got him everywhere for free. So definitely do that. But you can find me on Twitter at @TheFantasyFather. If you're watching, you can see that there. If you're not watching and you're just listening, cool too. I just got my invite to Scott Fishbowl, so I'm super pumped about that. I'm in SFBX, so I'm super pumped. You can find me on the Dynasty Happy Hour with Tim and Tyler every week. I am the host, as well as you can find me on Trophy Time with my brother-in-law, Josh. And then Also, the website tffgurus.com, which we co-founded. We've got a good writer team over there. And we don't really focus too much on Dynasty content. We do have some in the offseason. We're mostly redraft. So if you play redraft, we've got waiver wire, free agent, you name it, we cover it when it comes to redraft, even IDP. So if you're in that niche market like me, tffgurus.com, you can check that out. Yeah, that's all I got going on. It's been pretty quiet, swimming in the pool and having a good time.
Hey, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we had technical difficulties with Steve.
Damn you, Steve.
Yeah, I'll put him in the corner for that later. We'll obviously have to hash that out. I'll take it out of his check, all those kind of things. So, nonetheless, I had to take over the duties a little bit, and so it's a little bit more of a sporadic, episode.
You did a great job off the boom. There you go. You adjusted perfectly.
We had fun. So I appreciate you coming on, and obviously look forward to the season here in 2020. And anytime that we can join your podcast as well, we'd be obviously open to doing the same thing. So appreciate having you on. And I don't really know how he does the whole sign-off thing, Steve. I apologize, but you guys 100% love that you guys are following us. We're huge. We're starting to make huge changes here moving forward when it comes to our brand and what we're bringing out. I know last episode we mentioned our website when it comes to articles, dynasty rankings, memorabilia, all that good stuff. Sidelinesquib.com will be live here towards the end of June, shooting for June 25th. Before we go, I'll go ahead and just put this out here. We are running a contest on Twitter and through some other platforms that if you subscribe to this channel, if you subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you follow Sideline Squib on Twitter, you're going to be entered into winning one of these bad boys, the bad boy. It is a Keenan Allen. Speaking of Keenan Allen, I have it right here in my hands. Keenan Allen mini helmet signed by him with one of those authentication forms as well. I will mail it to the winner. The winner will be awarded on the 5th of July. So it was a 30-day thing. So nonetheless, if you guys are interested in winning that, it's like $130 value for free just by clicking a couple buttons. So I do highly encourage you guys to do that. I'm going to try to put the link in this YouTube video. YouTube's probably going to kick it back, but I'm going to still try to put it in there. Otherwise, follow us on Twitter at Sideline Squib or at Do or Die Nasty, and you can see all the rules to enter. Again, Doug, I do appreciate you coming on, and we will see you guys next time on the Sideline Squib.